Welcome to Evidence Based, a new Harbinger psychology podcast. We're your hosts, Cassie and Kendall.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about the importance of your relationship pre and post baby with Kara Hoppe, author of Baby Bomb. Kara Hoppe is a psychotherapist, teacher, feminist, and mother. She has spent more than a decade as an inclusive therapist, working with individuals and couples toward healing and growing, and toward becoming grounded, integrated people with better access to their own instincts, wisdom, and creativity. Hoppe currently lives in Pioneer Town, California, and sees clients in private practice via telehealth. You can learn more about her at www.karahoppe.com. We wanted to start this conversation by talking about something that's really important right now. In general, I mean, it's timely, it's going to be important forever, but in your experience, what kind of conversations should couples be having when deciding if they want to try to have a baby?
Yeah, my co-author, Stan Tacken, I actually really love it how he talked to me about 10 years ago when we first became friends. And my husband and I were just getting married and like building our lives together. And I mentioned something to Stan about we might expand our family someday. And Stan had such a great way of putting it. It was so pithy. He said, if you and Charlie are having such an awesome party that you think, let's invite somebody else to this party, that's a really good indicator of it's a time to expand your family. And that sounds really playful and fun, which it is. And it also speaks to the state of the partnership before you add that stress and intensity and transformation of having a child. And so I think it's also an invitation for couples to talk to each other about how they're doing and how they're feeling about their relationship, which is not the same conversation of should we expand our family. And I think beginning there with like, how are we understanding together? How are we moving through conflict together? How are we playing together? And then you can open it up to, maybe we should send out an invitation for somebody else to come to this party.
So do you feel like I feel like this is a big conversation prior to, getting married or, big life events like that? Like, where are we headed? Does this involve children? So I'm curious how that, how does it come about naturally, like without it being like, okay, we have to talk about all these big life things before we get married, and like, where is the room to like change your mind in that conversation? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Children are huge, and that would typically fall under something I would think as a couple therapist as a potential deal breaker. If one person doesn't want to have children and the other person does, partners may ignore that radical lifestyle difference, much to their detriment. That's not something that changes. You can hope that your partner changes their mind and their desire for a child goes away, but that's really hoping for a different partnership. So I think it is important to be intentional and have that conversation. How do you see our family in the future, in 5 years, in 10 years? Are children part of it? Why or why not?
So for this conversation to happen, at what point in a partnership or relationship do you suggest for couples to open this up? Is there too early of a time to talk about this, or is it something that you really need to get out on the table before going forward to a certain step in the relationship?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a right time to do it. It's just a really important conversation to have. Some people I know, some clients I work with, I know that they are on dating apps and it's on their dating app. So they're having the conversation before they're even dating somebody. They're saying, I want to have kids, or I don't want kids. So some people are doing it that way. Some people are falling in love and spending years together and then having that conversation when they're talking about like having some kind of commitment ceremony or perhaps getting married. And some people have the conversation after they're married. I mean, that's tricky, of course, because you've already committed to a person And so I guess I would recommend before you make a commitment to each other that the conversation happens. But when it happens, I don't think there has to be like a right way to do it. Just important that it happens and it's inclusive. And your partners are also talking about the whys, why children are important, or why being child free is important. Both are great choices.
So, what are some ways after you've had this conversation that couples can ensure that they're secure in their relationship in order to be ready to become a family or a party of three, like you called it?
um, well, assuming that two partners agree that they both want to expand the family, the question is like, how can they know that they're ready for it or secure enough for it?
Yeah.
That's like the $10,000 question. I mean, nobody can be prepared for parenthood. I think if you're 80% sure that like you navigate conflict well, that you're on the same page with each other, that you're advocating for your own needs and you're taking care of your partner's needs, you know them, you know how to care for them, you know how to have fun together, you know how to have quiet love together. You've weathered some seasons together. You've transformed your partnership maybe a couple of times together. And if you 80%, I mean, to want it 100%, I think is very, it's never going to happen.
Unrealistic.
80%, it's unrealistic. Thank you.
Yeah.
But 80%, that's good enough.
And I know that, in line with this topic of talking about making sure that your partnership is secure and that as a couple, you're deciding this together. I know that you use the phrase "the couple comes first," which can be controversial when someone hears that, thinking, "Well, the baby should come first." But how can you put that into context with explaining why the partnership or the relationship is so important to the foundation of early parenthood moving forward?
Right. Partners agree to put their relationship first because by doing so, they're putting their baby first. They're putting the oxygen masks on themselves and on each other. And then they're able to offer a sense of security and foundation and solid ground to their child. So putting the relationship first is putting the baby first. It's just in through the back door. What this helps with is when couples don't put their relationship first, there's insecurity there. We as human beings, we are wired to want to feel safe and secure. This is a human need. When we don't feel safe and secure, we will find a sense of safety and security. And if you're not finding that sense of safety and security in your relationship, you're going to find it by yourself, doing all sorts of different things that can look different ways. It can be lashing out at each other or lashing out at your partner to feel safe, like going to war. It can be withdrawing. It can be some more time on your phone, more time at work, more time with friends, substance abuse. I mean, we all will find a way to feel safe. And when it comes for parents, children are going to pick up on that. They're going to know, like, there's something off here. You know, mom or dad or mom or dad. There's something off here. And kids, their survival is wrapped to parents. And so they will fill in the gaps. So putting your partnership first, providing yourselves and each other with that human need for that sense of security allows your baby or your child to be a baby and is not like jumping out to provide that sense of security for either parent.
Along with what you said about, finding these ways to find security, if the parents are self-aware type people, what are some warning signs that they might be having some struggles in their relationship, post baby?
Right. That's a great question, Cassie. resentment. I would say that's number one. Feeling lonely, feeling angry on the daily, fighting over the small stuff, or not fighting at all. All of those are flags that something's probably going on underneath it, and you want to do some investigating by yourself, journaling, meditating, maybe talking to a friend, like I think something's going on, exercising, however you do your self-reflection. And then of course, bringing it to your partner. I think something's going on between us. This is what I'm noticing. We haven't had a fight in months. And there's conflict here and we're not talking about it. Or all we do is fight.
That lack of fighting almost seems worse.
Right. There's just that like such disconnect there, like two different parallel play happening.
Quiet resentment.
Yeah, like a stalemate.
Mm-hmm. And which, when you're in that place, I think it's really hard to admit that you're in that place. And of course, there's going to require a great deal of vulnerability on both partners' part to admit this is happening and say, I want something different. Because again, when there's that stalemate, it just like, if we think about it again in terms of like a sense of safety and security, all these people are doing is trying to feel safe. And the safest thing they think is being alone and not talking to their partner. So it's going to be a big leap of faith to like engage again. So I think what might be helpful for people if you find yourself in that position is like just simply saying to your partner, I think something's going on. That's a step forward towards them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And with, a good foundation and open communication on the front end, prior to having a baby, okay, so you've established that you're in a good place to do this as a couple. I'm sure this changes over time. And of course, you have to check in and keep communicating about it because these things can happen during parenthood and it becomes unexpected. But I'm curious of your thoughts on, I'm sure the division of responsibility is one of the biggest issues that arise, especially in the early days of having a child. What are some of the common problems that you see with new couples once they've had a child and how they're trying to communicate their needs without being resentful or without feeling like everything is falling onto them?
So I think, Kendall, what you're talking about is maybe a birthing person feeling
more of the childbearing or the birthing partner in the couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big responsibility that person's taken on for the family, right? They've shared their body with somebody for 10 months. They've gone through the birth experience, which is quite the event, and they maybe are feeding that person with their body at the same time as healing their body from the birth event, however it went. And like the non-birthing partner has no idea what that's like. And this is really tricky for couples because they're both going through this experience in real time together. Like the birthing partner is really like, what the fuck just happened to my body? I don't recognize my body. Who am I? I'm completely tethered to this other being, and it's not uncommon for birthing people to not be able to recognize themselves for a period of time. So you take that like very like precious, tender, transformative experience to which birthing people probably don't have any language to talk about with their partner, to say like, it's this, because they don't know what it is yet. And then the non-birthing partner, they're just became a parent too. They're trying to learn how to do this. They're trying to learn how to care for their partner and this baby at the same time, and they don't have the language. So I think I have such a generosity of spirit to both people going through this. I think what would be really helpful is for non-birthing partners to take the lead and ask the birthing partner, how are you? How is your body? How are you feeling about your body? Like offer up some conversational points to help with self-reflection, help with intimacy, help connect at that time. Of course, there's like the practicality things of like getting food and water for the birthing person and helping that person heal their body and feed their child. But like the emotion, there's such an opportunity for so much emotional intimacy there, and there's such an opportunity for such a divide there because both people are having such entirely different experiences, and that's biology.
So you mentioned, just asking how they are, how they're feeling about their body. What are some maybe other, like a few other prompts that the non-birthing partner might be able to use to get these conversations started without the birthing partner having to be expected to, carry that weight of like starting those conversations?
Right. I think also it could be really helpful just do acts of love too. Like, let me take the baby and pour you a bath. Let me take the baby and get you food and you can eat by yourself. Let me take the baby and why don't you go for a walk? I know that I wrote about that in Baby Bomb. That's what Charlie helped me do because I was so disconnected from my own needs after giving birth to Jude and taking care of him in the early months. And I didn't realize I was disconnected. So thankfully, Charlie did. And he was like, what do you need right now to take care of yourself? And it was a very humbling experience to realize that I didn't know what I needed. What I needed was some time by myself to journal. So that's something that like a non-birthing partner can step in and do. So I guess it's asking, it's offering, it's practicing being attuned, and like that being your responsibility for a period of time is just to be present with your partner and watch them and see how they're doing, get a sense of how are they feeling about this? How are they managing this load, and be part of it. And it doesn't have to be a conversation. Presence goes a long way. I'm talking about putting your phones away and being with your partner and also saying, I notice how well you're doing this. Noticing all of those positives too.
Yeah, and it feels like it makes all the difference in the world to have the non-birthing partner ask you or to suggest these things versus, like Cassie said, the birthing partner having to come up with them on their own, because that's another added stress, figuring out, okay, what do I need? And in your case, you're saying, I don't know what I need. I just know that I need something to kind of reconnect or feel like myself again. And that leads me to ask you, I know that, especially for a birthing partner or as a couple, those first few months or even the first year can be a really disjointed time for connecting to yourself, connecting to your partnership and who you were as a couple before. What are some of the ways that people can get back to reconnecting to not only themselves, but who they were as a couple before, their baby bomb came into their life and kind of turned things upside down?
Right. That's a great question. And I love how you said that, Kendall, that it's such a disjointed time. I mean, the family has just undergone such a massive transformation, right? They're not the family they were before, they're a new family. And so how are they going to reestablish themselves as friends, as lovers, as teammates, as partners, as co-parents? That's going to be happen in moments. Because let's be real, the demands of early parenting are grueling, especially when you're living through a pandemic, and there's also other support that has been changed, access to friends and other social supports. So this might sound trite, but it really works. Prioritizing the couple just means in the morning, I mean, this even happened this morning, like my son's like roaring like a dinosaur. We're getting him ready for preschool. I'm getting ready for work. My husband's getting ready for work. And and instead of doing all of the practical things, just stopping, and we found each other in the kitchen and we just hugged and slow danced for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds and smiled at each other. And it was like a really sweet moment. And it carries me and it carries him. So just like grabbing these moments and claiming these moments, but creating these moments, making a deal with each other. Let's keep prioritizing our relationship even when we're really busy. Let's make these moments happen. Let's lean into them. When one partner bids to touch, the other partner reaches back. And that creates that sense of safety for like intimate conversations to flow from that and intimacy to flow from that. So I think it's these really small moments. We talk about in Baby Bomb, like ways to ritualize that with like waking up rituals where couples like partners look at each other and greet each other and the day together before they do anything else. Again, this can be like 15 seconds, a minute. It doesn't have to be this grand gesture. It's just it's the intentionality and the consistency of, I love you, you're my person. Hearing that on the daily gives people such a sense of belonging and feeling loved and important that really carries the partnership during this disjointed time. So there's, I think, like in these small moments, and then of course, like I'm going to advocate for like time without baby. And that can look like having a family member, a friend, or hiring a sitter and going out. Or it can look like we write about in Baby Bomb, like date night in, where you put the baby to bed and you have this like intentional, ritualized, like romantic dinner at home where, again, like phones are away. The purpose is to be present with each other and to learn about each other and to share about each other, to really listen, like, who are you now that you're a parent? I mean, that's such an important question.
Yeah. I really like what you said about the little moments because I think that makes it really like digestible. I feel like it's probably really common to be like, oh, I need to fix everything or have this huge romantic gesture. But like what you said with your husband in the kitchen wasn't more than, 30 seconds of your day. And it made a huge difference. And,
Mm-hmm.
like you feel the love the rest of the day. And I think that's really sweet and really makes it easy to comprehend that it doesn't take much.
Right. It's doable.
Yeah, exactly.
In my head, as you were saying that, Cassie, was going, oh, this is digestible, like little moments. So I'm
Yeah.
on the exact same path as you are with that, because I think that as new parents, sitting down and having a conversation to say like, okay, how do we work on ourselves as a couple now that we're parents, probably won't happen because you're already stretched very thin. You're stressed, there's a lot going on. So the idea of having this really big, grand conversation about who you are now as a couple is probably not something a lot of people want to do. So I appreciate finding the moments as well, because that's, giving you little bits of joy through your day to kind of keep you going. And I think that it's also important to, I'm sure that with parenting, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak on that part, but I'm sure it's hard to let yourself feel those bits of joy in the first part of it, because you do feel like your life is just so dedicated to another cause and like all your focus is going towards that. So making the moments or having intentional date nights or remembering that you do deserve to have a break or have some joy is really important in that first period of time as well.
Right. Yeah, I want to go back to something you just said though, Kendall, too, because like the reason why Charlie and I intentionally connected this morning was because we've been disconnected for like a few days. We've just been not fighting, not fighting, just like a little busy and crunchy. And last night we have like a ritual where we say goodnight to each other together. And I said, I want to feel more love with you. I feel like we've just been business partners for the last few days, getting shit done. And I want to really enjoy us. And he said, yeah, me too. And so I was like, so that's enough for us to signal like that it recommit to claiming those moments. And then the reason why I say this is because if we need to have like a bigger conversation about maybe we're too busy and we're not prioritizing our partnership because we have too much on our plates, all of these moments, what they are building are a sense of safety and security and confidence in ourselves that really like support having a conversation of like, I think I'm saying this because I think Charlie and I have done it. I think we might have taken on too much right in this moment. And by taking on too much, it's putting strain on us. So let's reevaluate. But we're not going to have that conversation until we have like some more fun together.
I like that, like setting the stage so it's not immediate conflict, perhaps.
Right, right.
Yeah, I'm curious about what you said too, because, I'm also not a parent, but I can see, how life gets busy, like the pandemic. My husband and I never leave the house. We both work from home. Like, I can see how this might also be helpful for people who are not parents yet or have chosen not to be. Because it is interesting in the setting of this pandemic. I think like we're all home a lot more than we used to be. And like, how do you reconcile like being home with like connecting with your partner when you actually never leave your partner? You know what I mean?
Right. Like creating that space to miss and long and desire your partner in the midst of a pandemic where we're not leaving our homes. I mean, that is a challenge, right? And that might mean, like, I don't want to get into like the practicality of it, but that might be like an intention for you and your partner, Cassie, like to develop some more space there, even within your home or within your relationship. Like both of you get to do some inner work or have some other experiences and know that that's going to deepen the connection. But it is tricky right now, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, adding baby into the mix too, I'm sure complicates it on another level, and I personally have like three friends who had total pregnancies and had their babies during the pandemic. So like I've
Mm.
never met their children, like they've never taken their children out of their house. And I have to imagine that, complicates all the feelings for sure too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I have clients that have been like that too, given birth in a mask, couldn't bring their partner to the appointments because of the COVID numbers. And there's like that sense of isolation is real. So I think it's important to recognize there's an added difficulty in that situation. And not getting also to share your joy and your happiness with your community and get that support is really difficult for people. It's a difficult time. It truly is. I mean, it's so everyone says it's unprecedented, and it is unprecedented in its difficulty right now.
Yeah. And it's, like Cassie's saying, with a baby or no baby, you're still isolated in some regard in your own space with your partner, whoever it is that you're living with, or alone. And yeah, it's just been a really tough one to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to go back though and expand on something you said about, we're talking about making moments and making space to feel connected and loved and secure and safe with our partners, kind of on an emotional or like an intimate
Mm-hmm.
level. But when the couple is having a baby or they've just had a baby, I have to imagine that a lot of the clients you're seeing are having, not only trouble reconnecting as a couple emotionally, but also physically or
Mm-hmm.
sexually, and trying to get back to that place that they were before. And then, like we're saying, adding in the mix of being together all the time with the pandemic and just being in a shared space all the time. What are some of the ways, or what are some of the things you're seeing with couples who are going through an experience like that? And what are some of the ways that they can try to get back to establishing like a physical form of intimacy together?
Yeah, it's so important to a lot of people, not to everyone, but it is important part of lives to a lot of people. I think that there's a phenomenon that happens to birthing people where you're using your body for something else, for somebody else, for an extended period of time, carrying a baby and feeding a baby. And then for birthing people that have gone through any kind of fertility treatment, or any kind of fertility journey, that's an extended period of time where the birthing person can feel disconnected from feeling entitled to using their body for their own pleasure. Does that make sense? So birthing people get into a mindset, when you're trying to get pregnant and you are pregnant, and then after you're, postpartum, your mindset is like your body is created to care for others. And so I think, and I think this is so unconscious because it's just happening. And so a lot of birthing people don't even realize that there's been this disconnect from their bodies, and like that, I see it as this entitlement to using your body for pleasure again, your own pleasure, not to care for another person, not to carry another person or feed another person, but for your own pleasure and feelings of desire. I've noticed in my practice that having this conversation with both partners present can just be revolutionary in and of itself, that the birthing partner many times doesn't even realize that was going on. It presents as like, I just don't feel like sex. I just don't feel like being touched. I'm overtouched. I just don't want to be needed from anybody else right now. But then just being with that, and you go a couple of steps deeper with that person, and you see that it's not necessarily just that it's an overtouch. It's just that there's like this need for pleasure that's being unmet, and unclaimed. Also, they didn't even realize it. So that means like, introducing a whole new journey for this person to consider. Maybe my body is entitled to have fun with again. I've even said to couples too, or partners, like, because one partner was saying, I had a couple like a couple of weeks ago that was like, well, I think I need to quit nursing in order to do that. I'm like, I don't think it needs to be an either or. I think you can keep nursing and just consider that your body is your own also. Like there's a whole hormonal thing that happens in nursing that does like pull our libidos down. And that's an attempt for us not to get pregnant again. But it doesn't have to be like this rigid journey, like I'm no more nursing and then my body's my own. It can be like a very non-linear journey, but just considering your body for pleasure. And then like, how does your body like to have pleasure? Does it like to dance? Does it like to be in a bath? Does it like to move? Does it need more rest? That's a conversation for a birthing person to have with their own body. And then when couple therapy, it's so cool because birthing people can have that with me in therapy, and their partners' minds are like, oh my God, I thought it was me. It's not me at all. It's this journey that my partner's on right now that I get to be witness of and be part of. And then they can come in and be like, I think you should try this or something,
So they're both relearning more or less what the relationship is, or at least reintroducing the idea of having fun with your body and re-exploring that aspect of it.
Right. And I guess I keep repeating, but it's like like a healthy entitlement to having fun with your own body that birthing people can feel a disconnect from.
So you mentioned overtouch. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that comes into play and makes it difficult for new parents to find, their sexuality back?
Right. Overtouch is like when it typically happens to birthing people. They are, it's not just touch, like with babies and children touching and then partners touching. It's that all of those touches are bids to be cared for. Okay. So babies and children touch us because they want something from us. They want a hug, they want to be held, they want to be soothed, they want a snack, they want something. And so it's hard for parents to go from that mode of like touch means I have to show up for somebody else, to touch can mean that this is an invitation for me to get care. That like my partner's touching me because they want to help me like untense my muscles. And it can manifest as like, oh, now you want me too. And so there it's about touch, but it's also about needs. Like a need for autonomy over space, and that to be respected. And like another parent can see that and respect that and ask, are you open to being touched right now? And right there, asking for consent is being inclusive of like, I want this to be a good experience for both of us. Like, I'm not just going to come and touch you because I want to have sex with you because that's what I want to do right now. That's not going to work. And it's not inclusive. I mean, it's not taking care of the relationship. It's learning to be attuned. I know you've been with the baby right now. I really want to hold you. Would that feel good? And then of course, like when a partner says no, that other partner is going to have to, I feel really tender to that other partner too, because they're going to have to hold like maybe some pain of rejection and some longing themselves that's not getting met right now. And it's not because their partner doesn't love them or want them. It's because they're in a different season of their relationship.
I think that's really interesting to draw the connection between like the sensation of overtouch to feeling needed by your baby or your child constantly, and making that association with touch. Because I think when I think about a couple, in early parenting days and their journey to getting back to intimacy or a sexual relationship, I'm very much associating it with, being not comfortable with your body yet, or still figuring out what that looks like, or simply exhaustion, or not being in the mood, or things like that. And so to put it into context of like, what do you need from me now, too, really gives that context to me, and to, I think, probably a lot of people who you're saying are almost unaware of why it is that that's bothering them so much, or why they're feeling that sensation of overtouch. And on that note, I know you talk a lot in Baby Bomb about some of the common fights or arguments parents are having as they go on that journey. Would you classify intimacy or getting back into a sexual relationship one of them, or what are some of the most common fights that are arising really early in that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, what presents is usually about intimacy, division of labor, not having solid teamwork. And I think, though, that so many fights can get boiled down to, I really want to be seen by you, and I'm not. And the other partner feeling the exact same way. And so the fight, I mean, I do this as a couple therapist, like watching it happen. It's two people, no, see me, no, see me, no, see me, no, see me. And that's so intensified in early parenthood because both partners are feeling very vulnerable and needing of care and support. And a lot of times, like, the couple system doesn't have that much to offer. And so it can be this, like, this repetitive fighting that can manifest as fighting about physical intimacy, or the division of labor, or household chores, or, a bunch of different things, mess.
So the root cause of these common fights, while they might be disguised in different areas of the relationship, is really the key is feeling safe and secure and being seen. That's kind of the center everyone comes back to, which is the driving force into those fights.
Yeah, that's my experience. They usually end when one person says, okay, so what you're saying is you feel like I'm not showing up and helping out with the housework, and reflective listening says it back, and then that partner, the one that was just seen, calms down and isn't in quite as much fight mode, and then can say, and what you're saying is this. And then right there, by being able to see one another, their couples are building that teamwork back. And then from a place of teamwork, you can tackle anything as long as both people are trying to problem solve a problem instead of trying to problem solve the other person. That's the big difference. And so what you see is mostly people trying to problem solve the other person. You. And it could be about anything. But then if they can get that sense of teamwork just by like lowering their arousal and waving friendly flags and doing all the stuff we talk about in Baby Bomb with conflict, and then they can identify like what's really going on. And it could be like both partners can miss having physical intimacy with each other. Then they're like, okay, let's collaborate and figure that out. Or the house is a disaster. That's not working. So let's figure that out. Do you see the difference?
Yeah. And it sounds like if, each partner can kind of get out of their own experience and put themselves into the shoes of the other partner, that would solve a lot of problems, right? Including the overtouch thing. Because, like Kendall and you both mentioned, that isn't something you would immediately associate as, the underlying issue of why you don't want to be touched. And so it just seems like the solving of the problem just involves like getting out of yourself, really.
I know empathy goes a really far way in relationships.
Yeah. Who knew?
Who knew?
We're doing mind-blowing work on this podcast. Okay, so we have two small sections that we want to go into. So, most of our audience is therapists. So we want to do a section on questions specifically about your work as a therapist and how other therapists might take some quick tips from that. And then another one that we're calling Real Tools for Real Change, where it's for the parents, the partners. So we'll go into quick tips for therapists first. So what are some red flags that you notice in therapy when the topic of having a baby comes up? So for people who are not yet parents or haven't chosen yet to be parents, but are discussing it.
Well, is there an agreement from partners that they both want children or don't want children? That would be a red flag. Like we talked about at the beginning, if one person is committed to not having a child and another person is. I also want to hear from partners that are considering having a child from both of them, why they want to expand their family. I want them to think about that in addition to like that urge that happens to expand a family, but really like kind of like play that tape to the end. And consider how it's going to change their lives. But red flags, when things aren't thought out, it's just more of this like very, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a baby. Like there isn't the why. There isn't the, like if we think about it as a story as act 1, act 2, act 3, there isn't an act 2. There's only act 1 and act 3. That's something I want to help people consider, what they're thinking. So, and then just being unrealistic about it, which, like I said at the beginning, there's no way to fully prepare to having a baby, but you can be realistic about that it's going to really change things and put some kind of preventative care in there. And if couples are really interested or not interested in talking about that with me, that's a flag for me. If it is kind of more this like Hollywood, like, I don't know, just like, this is what we're gonna do, kind of I clock that. And then of course, like if they're not getting along most of the time and they think that a baby is gonna save things, or they're having a baby because their parents expect them to, or they're having, children for any of those reasons, I'm going to really want to help them consider that this is a choice that only those two people are going to really have to live with for the rest of their lives, nobody else. And like, what does that mean?
So in practice, when you're speaking to a couple who's thinking about having a baby or having that conversation, you're really wanting them to fully flesh this out, to really
Yes.
see what it looks like, not just, having the baby shower and having that high, so to speak, of having a baby, but what does it look like a year or two from now when, your life is completely upside down from the decision? Is that what you mean, that you just want them to really see it through and be more proactive about it as a couple?
Yeah, I do. I want them to help see them through and be more proactive about it as a couple. I also want to really help them own it as individuals and as a couple, and really to explore like what that means to own this decision beyond the baby shower, beyond the birth, but into parenthood. And what does that mean for them?
When you're speaking to them, do you ever give them some like assignments to take home with them for conversation starters, whether you're seeing someone individually or a couple, for ways that they can have these conversations outside of therapy, to kind of continue it as they're in their decision-making process?
No, I don't typically like assign homework or anything. I really lay the foundation in this session for those conversations to happen and then ask about it. How has it been going? Have you guys still been talking about it? That's something I'm looking forward to. Or was it one conversation and it's done? This goes for the other side too. If a couple's deciding not to have children, I'm curious about why they're doing that too. Why is that a good choice for your family? What do you think about that? And there can be a lot in that too, of people being afraid of having children because of their own childhood trauma and stuff. And you can help people unpack that. And then it might offer up another choice.
One question I wanted to ask you before, and I need to go back to now that you've said that, do you ever notice any really big differences when it comes to two partners when they come from different childhoods or upbringings? Like, does that ever really cause an issue when they're deciding to be parents or in those early days because they have such different backgrounds coming to the same table?
Absolutely. It's really, it's such a journey. Having a child is such a journey of individuation, right? And part of the individuation journey is like re-looking at your own first family and what you learned there, learned to do or not to do. And it's so easy to be unconscious and follow into that. And nobody had the same first family. So you have two people who are like, this is the way it's done. And that is something I want to help people be collaborative about, like, well, how do you two want to do it? Like, I understand that's how you were raised and what's like you feel is important to you and you feel is important to you, but you guys get to create something new now. So what do you want to take from those families and what do you want to leave from those families, and what do you want to do? How do you want to blaze your own path doing this?
Yeah, I think
But
that's interesting and also hopeful for people who maybe have, been weary of becoming a parent purely because of how they were parented. So I think that's really interesting. And the idea of, well, you guys get to do it new, like you get to do it however you want to do it. It doesn't have to repeat any negative patterns.
parenting can be a really reparative experience because I feel that with Charlie, that we get to provide Jude with something that was different than was provided for both of us. And we get to provide that for ourselves and him. And that feels really cool, to do something different that feels better.
I love to hear it through that lens because I imagine a lot of couples who did have a troubling childhood or experience with parents have that same thought when approaching parenting themselves, that they're scared of kind of recreating that experience that they're having, but looking at it through a positive lens of saying, okay, now with my partner in a secure relationship, I have the opportunity to come at it with a completely different viewpoint and give them something I was never given, or in a different way that I would have appreciated. I think that's really a huge component for people who are on the fence or not wanting to have kids for that reason.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I mean, I like to think of it that way. Parenting brings up all sorts of stuff, the good and the bad and the ugly. It can all be like alchemized to be a transformative, different experience. If you can learn how to make it that.
So in Baby Bomb, you talk a lot about secure functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about what that means for partners, but also parents?
Right. Secure functioning is based on the idea that you and your partner are providing each other with a secure base to which to explore the world with and yourselves with. And I can't think of any other way to parent than that. Because parenting is such a it's so relentless and transcendental and boring and grueling and hopeful journey. It's all the things. And I can't imagine doing that without being on solid ground. And that's what a secure functioning relationship is. It's feeling like a sense of love and belonging and importance and value. And from that place, living your life that way. And partners can learn, and we talk about it in Baby Bomb, how they can do that for each other on a day-to-day basis.
Along those lines, too, you also talk about relationship restoration.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk about how that can be a powerful way for couples to reconnect?
Yeah. Relationship restoration. I mean, kind of going back to that question you asked Cassie about like the pandemia or pandemic, and like, and then early parenthood or parenthood at any. I mean, we could all use some restoration, right? And the person who's going to offer you that is going to be gold. And so, yeah, learning what that means to you two as individuals and for your coupledom is so important. It could be like an early parenting, just in realistically, it could be putting away your phones and cuddling and watching a Netflix. And that can be very restorative. Just any kind of physical contact can count in terms of restoration, or providing each other with some independent time can be very restorative. It doesn't have to be together. It can be, I'm taking the baby when we're leaving and you have the house to yourself. That can be a really restorative experience. And then, of course, with any restorative experience, you're going to bring that energy back into the couple too, in a way of like bringing in vitality and aliveness, again, feeling restored.
Well, the restoration sounds like a very intentional act. So you're being very intentional in kind of finding those ways to bring restoration back. And could that be something that could be spontaneous, or is that something more to reflect on and then to be proactive about?
I think it could be both. Like, why not? It could be something like intentionally, like one parent goes to the spa. I mean, when you can go to the spa, or leaves, I was thinking this morning, it's so funny. I was like thinking this morning, I was like, what do I need? Because I feel like I need something lately. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to borrow a friend's house and invite a bunch of women friends to come like for an overnight and just hang and have like conversation and community and connection. And I mean, it just came to me, and that's like more of a big thing. And that obviously would take planning and coordinating with my husband and stuff like that. but I'm pretty excited about that idea. And I know that that idea would be good for my marriage. So it can be that, but it also could be, like just something spontaneous. I have this idea, let's try this. Um, you know, um, always kind of trying to find your way and recalibrate in partnership. It's such a long journey.
A friend sleepover sounds so like soul restorative. Like that just sounds so lovely.
Right? I know it
Yeah.
just came to me this morning. I was like, I can do that. I live in yes. I was like, I can like make this happen. And just like, and also just like do a blanket invite. So it's like if you can come, you can come. If you can't, you can't, and like whatever. But like we're gonna claim the people who can, let's claim some space and let's be together.
What are some ways that couples can become experts on each other in this new season, as you reference in their relationship?
Mm. Yeah, the best way to become experts on each other is to make that a priority and start paying attention. What lights my partner up? What takes them down? How can I soothe them when they're scared and upset? What are their tells? We talk a lot in Baby Bomb about tells, and these are by tells I mean like non-verbal communication. What is their body telling me? How are they carrying themselves? What is their face communicating? How are they talking to me? Is there a hop in their step or is there not? And being committed to paying attention to that on a daily basis and kind of collecting a whole way of knowing your partner and then putting that to work. And I really want to be like very encourage partners to just experiment here. Try different things, try different ways. Like you can see your partner's like frustrated with the baby. Try different approaches. I mean, for any of your listeners right now that are parents, this is the easiest way I can think to explain it. You know how your baby only has one way to signal to you that they need care, and it's by crying. And so as parents, we're committed to figuring out what it is. Is it tired? Is it food? Is it a dirty diaper? Is it too much stimulation? Is it not enough stimulation? Is it diaper rash? I want to encourage partners to embody that same fidelity to curiosity that you do in parenting. Is my partner this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And just keep trying it out. That's the best way to become experts on each other. And and good thing you guys have a lifetime, because it takes a lifetime, because we're always growing and changing, and allowing your partner to grow and change and be committed to keeping to know them.
I like that a lot. Like, the baby doesn't have the language to tell you what's wrong, and you should maybe act like your partner also doesn't and pick up on those cues. I think that's really, really interesting. I want to ask a little bit about the pre-parent self. Can you
Mm-hmm.
give listeners a few ways to start the process of reconnecting with their pre-parent self?
Right. We talk about in Baby Bomb about doing a guided meditation and journaling and doing some self-reflection and investigating about what did I like to do? What lit me up before I was a parent? What hobbies did I have? What were my self-care routines? What exercises did I like to do? What music did I like to listen to? Who did I like to hang out with? Just doing a real big deep dive in remembering who was I and what do I want to bring into my life now. And the way that partners can be involved in that is, of course, like supporting them and taking that time to do the self-reflection and encouraging them to do the self-reflection. Because if it's good for your partner, it's good for the relationship.
That's great. This has been such a great conversation, and I really appreciate you going through this with us. And Cassie, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I was just going to say, if you have any final thoughts for listeners, the floor is yours.
I want to say one thing. Yes, I do. If your parents did something in their partnership or as parents that you didn't like, or if you have an inkling of an idea of wanting to do something different and you don't know what it is because you never saw it, those are doors. And what we cover in Baby Bomb is a new paradigm of how to be in partnership and to be parents. You can do it in a way where everybody's needs are important and valuable, and you can meet them all. Maybe not all at the same time, but in bit by bit, you can value them. And I think that that's a radical idea, at least for the people that I work with who didn't see that growing up, didn't see two parents taking care of each other's needs and helping each other out in a really intimate and committed way. And I guess I just am so committed to, if you didn't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean you can't learn how to do it perfectly. You can. This is totally doable.
Written by a psychologist and relationship expert, Baby Bomb offers powerful tools based in psychology and neurobiology to help you and your partner co-parent and co-partner as a solid and supportive team, while also cultivating mad love for each other. You'll find more than just tips for better parenting and partnering. You'll discover how a secure, functioning relationship is essential for raising happy, healthy kids. Visit our website at www.newharbinger.com and use coupon code podcast25 to receive 25% off your entire order.
New Harbinger Publications is an independent, employee-owned publisher of books on psychology, health, spirituality, and personal growth. For nearly 50 years, our evidence-based self-help books and pioneering workbooks have helped readers make positive changes to improve mental health and well-being. Founded by psychologists Matthew McKay and Patrick Fanning, New Harbinger is proud to be an employee-owned company. Our books reflect our core values of integrity, sustainability, compassion, and trust. Written by leaders in the field and recommended by therapists worldwide, New Harbinger books are practical, accessible, and provide real tools for real change.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love if you rated, reviewed, and subscribed to the show, and we hope you might share it with anyone who might benefit from the content. This podcast is not a substitute for counseling with a licensed provider.
Join the New Harbinger Clinicians Club, a free membership club exclusively for mental health professionals. Sign up today and you'll receive a special welcome gift, 35% off all professional books, free client resources, free ebooks throughout the year, access to private sales, a subscription to our Quick Tips for Therapists email program, and more. Visit newharbinger.com/clinicians-club for more information.